There's nothing wrong with a life of peace and prosperity. I suggest you think about what it is that you want from your life, and why.
I want my destiny.
What that means is up to you.
We do not know much about their past, but one thing we do know is that Iroh and Ozai are different, and what I believe separates them in the later stages of their lives is loss. Of course, there are other factors, and those will be touched upon as well. We will begin with their history. Azulon had 2 children, Iroh and Ozai. Iroh, the firstborn, was next in line to become the Fire Lord. He later became a high-ranking general, and Ozai instead became the next Fire Lord. Azulon was power-hungry, stern, and strict. Azulon was ruthless and held the military and power to high regard. He did not let the helpless civilians of other nations come between his plans to take over the 4 nations. But Azulon did have a heart when it came to his family, unlike Ozai, but that we will get to later. Ozai was very similar to his father, in the sense that he too was ruthless, and held power in the highest regard.
You're weak, just like the rest of your people. They did not deserve to exist in this world.
But as stated by Iroh, Ozai was not the understanding type. Azulon and Ozai's broken relationship brewed an immense anger in the future Fire Lord. I believe that Ozai, like Azula, seeked his father's approval and attention. Iroh had the birthright. He was more tactical, and not to mention, he was the general of the 600-day siege to Ba Sing Se, and was the first to break the inner wall of the impenetrable city. Meanwhile, we didn't hear much about Ozai during the war. The one thing that Ozai did have over Iroh was firebending, and even that is debatable in itself. Iroh carried a gentle and calm spirit, even as he led the 600-day siege through Ba Sing Se. This was hinted at when Iroh gained his nickname, the Dragon of the West, as the great general spared the last remaining dragons. Even with this, Iroh was still a general of the Fire Nation army, and was not the same person that he is now. He references this in his letter, as he states that the Earth Kingdom would burn to the ground, and later stating how he is now a different man. But Iroh's reason for change was that during the 600-day Ba Sing Se siege, General Iroh's son, Lu Ten, was killed on the front line. Alongside their different personalities, I do believe that this loss that Iroh suffered truly distanced the 2 brothers in terms of their outlook on life. Ozai attempted to take advantage of his brother's misery. Ozai demanded to have the Fire Lord's position skip over the older Iroh onto himself, because he believed that Iroh was unfit for the position due to his loss, and due to him removing himself and his troops from the Ba Sing Se siege, deeming his brother a failure. Azulon quickly reprimanded Ozai's statement, shaming his son, ordering him to feel the same loss that Iroh did, and consequently, the Fire Lord ordered for the firstborn Zuko to die. And while Ozai was ready to give up his firstborn, Ursa, Ozai's wife, refused, and ended up sacrificing herself as she worked in tandem with Ozai to kill Azulon, and banished herself from the Fire Nation. But Iroh's loss would only change his perspective on the way he would live out the rest of his life. Iroh traveled the world, and even traveling the spirit world in search for his son. It was during these travels where Iroh's yearning for knowledge and enjoyment of life grew, and his need for the military was retracted. He realized that there were more important things in this world than the Fire Nation and their lust for power. And though he was a retired general, he took the later banished Zuko under his wing. The Dragon of the West led the world set its course. Though his heart was not present in the Fire Nation, he did not attempt to derail the Fire Nation's plans. He simply allowed life to move along, only intervening when necessary. His love for his son later transferred over to Zuko, as he raised the prince as a better father than Ozai could ever be. Ozai's lust for power consumed him. In his entire life, he had never lost. Ozai had never gone through anything that made him consider other people, or consider other nations, or anything but himself. No groundbreaking events ever changed his perspective on his life, and that is what separates himself from Iroh. Ozai was at his crossroads of destiny when Iroh returned from the siege of Ba Sing Se. The destiny he chose was one of darkness, as he exploited his brother's sorrow and later reaped the price. He lost the power he so desperately cherished. his precious kingdom, and his precious firebending. Whereas Iroh's crossroad of destiny completely altered him. But Iroh's greatest change seemed to be his appreciation for life, and how life is not fixed. With Zuko, he constantly instructed him that his life was not based on the destiny that was given to him, but rather the destiny that he needed to carve out for himself. With this appreciation, it brought Iroh a willingness to teach. When he was mugged, he helped the mugger's stance and form. He instills faith and hope to Aang, advises Toph to allow others to help her. And to Zuko, well, he provides an absolute, unrestricted love from a father to his son. Iroh teaches us, and many others, so many things. But Iroh's wisdom comes from experience and from loss. Every word he speaks can be related to those around him in that present time, but also can be related to the man that he once was. Iroh teaches us that humility is important. With his loss, he began to understand and to teach that life can be taken from your hands if you do not shape your destiny in the way that you want, or in the way that you need it to be shaped. Watching him sing to his son's grave was heart-wrenching. Nobody, especially no one with as a gentle and kind heart like Iroh, deserves such a loss. But Iroh sets an example of how loss is a part of life, but accepting it and properly acting upon it is based on the person. Iroh's humility, wisdom, generosity, and his unconditional love for Zuko, as if he were his own son, are traits that we should strive to obtain. The Dragon of the West, like his nephew, represents the true Fire Nation, a nation of love, power, and prosperity.